give me a more overview that what sort of work you are doing, which is specific to Azure?
So basically, we are closely working with an architect. Okay, so whatever the diagrams they are giving us, so there are daily governance calls wherein they are giving us LLDs. So we are building the resources accordingly. And apart from that, we are getting few tickets on ITSM tool. So basically, we are using ServiceNow. So we are getting change request. We are also getting SR. So we are working accordingly.
What sort of change requests you cater?
So basically, change request means if they wanted to, add a virtual machine. Okay, so that is not a service request. So that comes through the change because it has got a lot of approvals from the stakeholders, from the product owners. So accordingly, we are building those.
Okay.
And in terms of SRs like assigning roles or maybe a password reset query, so we are working on those.
Okay. Uh, in case you receive a request and customer is requesting to allow traffic from outside on a particular destination, right? So how can you do that? And for what all services would be used? What all kind of policies, rules you have to allow on Azure?
Basically, if we are from allowing traffic perspective, so first thing which is coming in my mind is the network security group. First, we are going to check, okay, whether the ports are in place, okay. Accordingly, we can allow if not assigned, so we can get into the network security group and we can allow the particular port for the incoming traffic.
Mhm. What
And the
all
second,
things
yeah,
you
please.
require? What all things you require in order to allow traffic from client side?
We required port numbers.
Okay. And what all things you need to specify when you are allowing a traffic on NSG?
NSG, so we will just add a rule, okay,
Mm-hmm.
inbound rule, all right, to allow the traffic. Let's say if you wanted
Okay.
to, yeah, that's what.
Okay. So, uh, what all things you would allow?
One is HTTP, one is HTTPS.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if they wanted to do RDP, so accordingly, if there is SSH, so we will allow 22.
In case the traffic needs to be allowed, do I have to allow in both inbound and outbound, or only outbound or inbound would
Not
suffice?
necessary inbound. Outbound is if you are, routing the traffic.
Okay. So, I mean, why we don't have to allow outbound in case we have allowed inbound? Because traffic should, the incoming traffic, whatever incoming traffic is there, right? Uh, on the same destination, until outbound communication is also open, the communication would not happen. If request is coming for something, right? Data also needs to go out,
Both the ways, correct.
right?
Mhm.
So,
I'm sorry, that's a mismatch. Yeah, both the traffic that we wanted to include inbound as well as outbound.
no, you were correct previously.
Mhm. So here,
We don't have to.
in this case, if we are not allowing outbound, if we are just keeping inbound, so generally, if we are doing port forwarding, at that time we would require outbound maybe.
Mhm. Okay, actually, so when in Azure, the NSG rules are stateful. You
Correct,
understand?
correct,
Yeah. So in case we have allowed inbound traffic, outbound would be allowed automatically by default.
correct.
So they are stateful. That is the reason we don't have to, allow explicitly. In case you also work on tickets, right? You
Yeah,
said you also
tickets.
work on tickets. What sort of issues you receive when you are working on tickets?
Generally, these are role based. So, for an example, if they wanted to, add up a role, custom role, so we are getting those kind of those kind of tickets, wherein we are adding a role. And other than that, we are getting tickets like, increasing the disk size or spinning up the virtual machine.
Can we increase the disk size in machines, in virtual machines?
Of course, we can, but we won't be able to
Oh,
decrease.
what is the process for increasing the disk size?
We just go to the virtual machine. See, we tell them that we would require some downtime. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
we go
Mm-hmm.
to virtual machine and then we go to the disk. Okay, and we just increase the disk. Either you can do it on that way or you can do it on PowerShell.
Okay. Uh, so
But we
downtime
need,
would be required.
yeah, correct. But we need an approval.
Of course, without approval, we'll not make any changes. That is right. Have you come across with a situation when customer complained that they are not able to connect to the machines servers which are hosted on Azure?
Indeed, couple of times.
Okay.
So they are
Okay.
unable to
So,
take RDP. That's what you mean
hmm,
to say, right?
yeah. So what? How do you fix those issues?
There are a couple of things. Okay, so if we are not able to take RDP, so first we need to check, what are the credentials they are using, while taking RDP. We will also try to take RDP to that machine using admin credentials. If we are able to take RDP, so then we will come to know that he has got some access issues. So accordingly, we will route to IAM team. So this is first thing.
This is okay.
Second thing,
What else?
Second thing is in case if RDP is not happening, okay, so then we run some commands, okay, on PowerShell, all right, wherein we will reset the remote RDP connection. So from run command, we will just go to the virtual machine. On the left blade, we go to run command. We will do that way. That is second thing. Third thing, very important. In fact, this should be a first thing. First, we will check the state of the machine, whether it is in running state, whether it is in stop state. Okay. So accordingly, we will do that. If that is not happening, so then last would be we will reapply the machine. Okay. Then we will redeploy the machine, but with a
Okay.
downtime.
What is the difference in reapplying and redeploying?
So if we reapply the machine, it is going to be, the machine is going to be deallocated and it would be allocated to the same node on the hardware. But if we are deallocating machine, okay, so then it would be go to the other part of the hardware. So it will not be on the same cluster.
So how is it going to fix the issues?
Generally, there might be a possibility that due to some hardware issue, but we have tried most of the times when we redeploy, so the things are working fine. And also, we are going to check in the NSG whether those particular ports are there enable for RDP or not.
Hmm. Okay. Suppose we have a customer, and customer says that on some machines there should not be any internet connectivity,
Okay,
and they want to stop the same. So how can we do that?
fine, we'll stop the same. So there are basically two ways we can do it from login to the particular server. Okay, server management console. We can stop the internet from there. This is the first way. Second way is
How
we can disable the port.
how can we do that from the machine?
There is an option over there, IISS, wherein we turn it off.
What is IISS?
No,
I
oh,
never.
sorry, that is a web server. Okay, but we first there is an option, okay, over there when we just turn it off, the internet up. something like an update. So at that time, he won't be able to access the internet.
Okay.
But this,
Surprisingly, I never. I'm not aware about that
I'm actually
option.
not recollecting the name, but there is an option. So let's say if you
So.
create a machine, okay, so there is an option
Mm-hmm.
on server management console wherein we will be able to disable the internet. So it will not allow us to access the browser.
Mm-hmm. So in server, um, we have an option which says protected mode, right?
Correct.
If you that is enabled, right, it
Yeah,
would just give you the prompt, right? You have to accept the prompts, and then the internet would be allowed. It won't stop internet.
correct. I'm sorry. It is that way. But the other option is we will disable the ports if the ports are allowed.
Which ports?
80, 443.
8443. Uh, so in case port 443 and 80 is blocked, internet would be stopped in the VM.
Of course, he won't be able to access the internet.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, what is VMSS?
So basically, virtual machine scale set is a service. Okay, so let me. So for an example, let's say for an example, if there is an application, uh,
Hmm.
let's say if a company has got their online website, okay, wherein they are a kind of a Flipkart. Suddenly, if we are expecting a lot of traffic on a big billion day or maybe other seasonal day, so at that time we would get a lot of requests. Okay, so accordingly we enable that service VMSS, wherein it is going to scale out the virtual machines in order to distribute the request. But we would require a load balancer
Why load balancer is required in this case?
to equally distribute the request to check whether the also to probe whether the VMSS, whatever the virtual machines that has been scaled out, whether it has
Hmm.
whether it is healthy or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a load balancer and uh, a traffic manager?
So the major difference is load balancer, basically Azure load balancer. It is working on fourth layer of OSI model, and the traffic manager is working on seven layer of the OSI model.
How does it
So
make a
basic,
difference?
yeah. So when we talk about load balancer, okay, here we have to define the ports, all right? And where we when we talk about the uh, traffic manager, okay, so here we give the domain.
Hmm. Okay.
So both of them they are global. So both of them they are non-HTTPS.
Okay. What is front door service?
Front door, this is a path based, wherein we give a specific path. Let's say, for an example, if we have, it is also working on seventh layer. Let's say, for an example, if we have uh, Google, maybe some website, and then slash images. So it is path based routing. So it is going to route according to the path.
Hmm. Okay. What is the difference between NSG and Azure Firewall? In case we already have NSG, right? Uh, why do we need Azure Firewall service?
So NSG basically we are working on ports, okay, on the layer 4 of the OSI model, and firewall it could be layer 4 to layer 7, wherein we will also mention the path, mention the website, which one is to be blocked,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
we can also mention the ports. So that is a major difference.
Okay. Do you have any exposure with firewalls, creating rules, allowing traffic, etc.?
I haven't got any hands-on. I didn't got an opportunity, but given an opportunity, I would definitely do my best.
Okay. What is DNS?
It is a domain name server, wherein let me give you an example of a phone book and the phone number. Okay, no one remembers the phone number, but yeah, hardly few people may remember, but people will remember the name, okay, by name. So it is just a domain name resolution. So there is a directory that, like a small database, is maintained, wherein the uh, name is being attached to the IP address.
Hmm. Okay.
Now there
What
are,
is reverse? What is the okay?
yeah, please tell me.
What is the role of reverse lookup zone in DNS?
Reverse lookup zone.
So I believe you might be aware about the zones we have in DNS server.
One is NS.
What is NS?
I don't know the abbreviation. It is something as naming system.
NS is not zone. NS is one of the record DNS record
Yeah, record.
name server.
Naming server, correct. So we have NS1, NS2, naming server 1, naming server 2. Correct.
Mm. So zone is not that name server.
Okay.
Zone is different. Forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone. In DNS, what is recursive query?
Recursive query. Basically, I don't have much details on the recursive query, but definitely I will get into the details. I would love to explore
Okay.
DNS
Mhm.
post this
I
call.
mean, have you used DNS in Azure? How do we configure it?
So basically, there are two DNS options. One is public DNS and one is private DNS. Okay. So we just
Mm-hmm.
get into the public, the Azure DNS. Okay. Therein we
Mm-hmm.
mention the IP address, and therein we mention the name, and therein we mention the naming server. So whatever we are getting from the hosting provider, let's say GoDaddy, so they are going to give us a records. So there we mention those details.
What is TXT record and why do we
TXT
need it?
TXT is basically for an authentication.
Mm-hmm. And why do we need a record?
A record, there are A record and TXT. I believe both of them they are for the authentication.
What sort of authentication? I believe TXT is the one which is used for authentication, not a.
In order to verify whether the website is, whether we are the one, who are the actual owner of the website. So we have
Mm-hmm.
we get those details, A record and TXT records, and then we need to put those records on our hosting provider. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
that's how we verify.
I want to extract all the resources using PowerShell in a subscription. So can you walk me through that? How can I do that?
So I will tell you first. We just open the PowerShell in the admin mode. Okay. First, we install the modules. All right. So I don't remember the script. Okay, but we can get it from the online. We just
We don't
copy.
need script.
Yeah.
I believe even we don't need the script. We
Okay.
just need simple commands for the same.
Command. So then we enter those commands. We install the module, and then we enter the command AZ login. So once we do the AZ login, so it is going
Correct.
to
Give me. Can you give me the correct syntax?
syntax I don't have in mind. We have got
Mhm.
a folder wherein we have got certain PowerShell commands. We just
Mhm.
copy and paste it.
Okay. Okay. So you don't run manually, type manually.
No, we just copy and paste it.
Okay. Uh, do you have any exposure with managed services?
Managed services in the sense, are we talking about containers, or are we talking about uh, web
Uh,
apps
yeah.
or platform as a service?
Yeah. The I'm talking from the uh, IT industry point of view. Like in IT industry, there are there are different kind of services offerings.
Okay,
We have professional services, managed services, desktop uh, support services, right? Managed services, knock.
okay.
You know. So, do you have any exposure that what all types of services are offered in an IT industry?
Other than managed service, see, I heard about NOC, I heard about SOC, I heard
Mm-hmm,
about EUC, end user computing. I've heard
mm-hmm,
about Wintel, I've heard about AD, I've heard about VMware, heard about Citrix, wherein we do VDI things. Then I've heard about database, I've heard about middleware services, and then we go with the service desk L1, L2, L3, those kind of thing. And then we have a Linux. But
mm-hmm,
managed services, if you could please elaborate.
mm-hmm. So, in managed services, in managed services, the IT companies manage the companies, I mean different companies like end user companies infrastructure.
Okay,
So it's not only when the issue is reported by customer, it's also the under managed services, the IT companies are uh, proactively monitoring their infrastructure, and they try to identify and fix the issues before it actually becomes a problem, an
okay.
issue.
So Pareen, if I'm not wrong, so are we referring to the event management, wherein we have got some monitoring tools? Okay. For an example, we have a Dynatrace, okay, wherein they are going to, wherein we will map all the network assets, all the assets that we have, okay, and then it will give us whether the utilization is high. So accordingly, we are going to, scale out those machines to ensure that we get high
It's one of the
availability. Okay,
service,
it's one of
one
the
of the
service.
service under managed services.
Okay,
So apart from this, change management, problem management
correct.
could be, other services as well.
Change
uh,
management, I have heard about
mhm,
the cab, so whatever the changes that they wanted to implement, okay, first they
mhm.
need to get an approval, all right. So then the cab approver, they will approve, and then we will implement the change. But there are a lot of things that we need to buy a downtime.
Currently, are you working for an Indian company or
So I'm working with a
uh,
Canadian company.
Canadian company? Okay. So how often you call them or you receive call from them?
So we are basically getting request on ITSM. Okay. We also have
Mm,
teams available, but the thing
mm,
is, there are many activities which are non-ticketed. So again, we don't have any records for those activities. Even though if we wanted to help our cross teams, okay, still we have to log a ticket, right? So that's the
mm.
reason we are getting tickets. So hardly we get text, okay, but I'm comfortable with calling them because in past I used to do. If it is necessary, then we call them.
Okay. So you don't often receive or make calls.
Yeah, like I can say thrice or hardly few calls we make, but we do
Hmm.
if required.
Okay. In your resume, you have mentioned Azure monitoring. So what sort of exposure you have with Azure monitoring?
So basically, as for monitoring, we have got log analytics, wherein
Mhm.
we retrieve, we check the logs for the 30 days, like what all uh, resources, who has made those resources, if there are any challenges, okay. So then we need to retrieve those logs.
I'm sorry. Can you come again, please?
No, no, Azure monitoring, I mean to say, it is not related to a monitoring tool or something. Okay,
Hmm.
it is basically relating to log analytics. Okay, wherein we
Hmm.
check the logs. Okay, so if the logs, if there are more than 30 days, okay, we could refer to the activity log. We could simply go to the resources on the uh, left blade. We would see the activity log as a second or third option. We could check there. But if there are logs, more than 30 days, so then there are some queries that we have. Like there is a file wherein we just copy those queries and we log into the log analytics in order to retrieve the older logs.
So do you think that the activity log and Azure the monitor is same or is it different?
Oh, actually, it is different because these Azure monitoring, the one that you are referring to, it is certainly uh, like the machines, whether they are consuming a lot of CPU usage. So basically, it is related to utilization, the one that you are referring to. So if the monitoring, if we are monitoring and if it is like reaching or nearby threshold, so we increase the machines. So basically that is going to just generate the alert and send it to the appropriate holders, stakeholders.
I want to set up notifications using Azure Monitor so that in case it triggers high CPU utilization, memory, disk. So how can I do that?
So we can go to Azure monitoring, okay,
Hmm.
and then we can select the resources, all right, like what all resources we have that we need to set up under monitoring, and then we can just open the parameter checkbox, okay, not the checkbox, the drop down, wherein we have got many parameters, okay. Then we select the parameters and we assign the threshold values, minimum threshold values as well as maximum threshold values.
Hmm. Okay. What is the difference between dynamics and static threshold values?
Static is the one which is not changing. Dynamic is the one that may be
That is
changed.
the standard term you're telling,
Yeah,
you're saying.
it is a standard
Standard
term,
term.
but
So
there is a cooling.
what is hmm.
There is a cooling, like we give a cooling of maybe like 10 minutes. Just wait for 10 minutes if it is coming down or not. If it is not coming, so then we will increase a kind
No,
of condition.
how does even in dynamics thresholds we don't set any thresholds. We don't give any value. Then how does it work?
So
So, for example, in case I want to trigger a notification when the CPU utilization for a particular resource goes 80%, I want to trigger a notification, right? But in case it's dynamic, I don't have to give this value. Then how this is going to work? Have you, I mean, do you configure this when you are building up the environment for customers?
no, actually
Do you?
not. But I have got like I can go through it once I have a look at the portal. So I'll be able to do this. It is not that difficult as well.
Mhm. Do you also configure backup? backups for the resources you create?
Backups we actually don't because we have got a storage and backup team, a separate team.
Mm-hmm.
But I have got like a fair idea, okay, how to do that. Generally, those in terms of a SQL backup, wherein you just
Mm-hmm.
log into the SQL server, you just connect to a database, you right click on it, and you click on a backup.
Mm-hmm.
But that is going to store in the blob.
Do you also configure or troubleshoot on PaaS services like Azure SQL database, web app services, function app?
Basically, not on the function app.
I'm sorry, I missed your
Uh,
last
no,
sentence.
we
Just
don't do
lost
that.
your voice.
We don't do that.
Uh,
Not
s-
got an
can
opportunity.
I my question was, do you also work on the PaaS services like web app services, Azure SQL database?
I have worked once when it was on a container. So wherein there was an image, wherein there was a development team. They were making some web app, and they told us that to host it as a container. So what we did basically is we created the image, okay, of the container, and using the Visual Studio, sorry, okay. Then we connected the Visual Studio to the Azure, all right, portal. And then what we did is we moved that container to the Azure Container Registry. Okay. And from Azure Container Registry, we created the Azure Container Instance. That's how we did that once.
Do you know AKS or Kubernetes?
Azure Kubernetes, I don't have explored Kubernetes, but I would love to. Again, it is
Do you reach
related to
out?
containers.
Okay. Do you reach out to Microsoft for support in case there is an issue you're not able to fix?
Generally, reaching out to Microsoft support, but before that, what we do is basically we check, we check the online forums, okay, related to particular issue. We check, whether it could be rectified or not. Then we have got our own Wintel team who is working on it. So first we take help from the Wintel team.
Okay. In case issue is related to Azure, then how Wintel team is
So in
able
case
to help you?
if the issue is related to Azure, so we go through the Azure portal. We check the troubleshooting steps, no,
Hmm.
related to a particular resource. We check, whether the issue is a part of those particular troubleshooting steps. So then we troubleshoot accordingly.
How do you communicate with customers?
In the sense, over the email generally,
Hmm.
and we also
Via
have like
ticket or
we are
Outlook?
ticket generally we are ticket we are using ServiceNow as an
Hmm.
ITSM tool,
Hmm.
but that will shoot up an email to them. So that's the other part.
Okay. Suppose I'm the customer and I'm trying to connect to us to support. I uh, and I reached out to the support using chat support. Uh, so let me know how do you communicate. I'll try to communicate with you over chat. Okay.
Okay.